So some things to consider. Does SCORM really care about what browser I use? So in the modern world, SCORM, as I said, is typically in a zip file, much like an MP3, and you give the player the full MP3 and say, have a nice day. Back in the days of Napster, we know that this was kind of uncomfortable for the music industry. Well, hey, it's 2023, and not everybody just wants to give their SCORM course to someone else. So SCORM distribution is typically hard. I think that that's type of a miscommunication often. There are advanced ways to do these things. Selfishly, Rusticy has a bunch of tools out there that do this. Others can do it as well, where we take a small shell of a SCORM 1.2 course, we put it into an LMS like Moodle, the world's largest open source, and then we'll play advanced content that's remotely hosted, that circumvents all of the cross-domain browser security restrictions. It gives the course owner the ability to set seat limits, see how people are doing, gather personally identifiable information, or block or hash it, depending on where we are, to allow them to update courses in real time, and to break a bunch of rules about SCORM, because AR, VR, XR, live in-person training, there are a lot of ways that intellectual property owners and subject matter experts want to deliver into LMSs, and they're kind of hamstrung by traditional SCORM values of package it and play it. So Rusticy has ways around all of these things. And if you, your team, instructional designers are kind of scratching your head and feeling a little bit boxed in by the way SCORM is typically packaged and delivered, hey, talk to us. We have a lot of ways to break all of the rules I was just talking about, but still take advantage of SCORM's core strength, which is everyone knows how to support it. So please talk through these things with your team. And if you identify moments where, wow, it would be great if SCORM could do this, ask us anything really. There are a lot of ways to get SCORM to do what you want, even if it's not traditional SCORMy behavior that was intended years and years and years ago when they were writing it. So some things to consider. Does SCORM really care about what browser I use? Not really. SCORM is largely agnostic. The browsers that exist today weren't around when they were writing the SCORM standard. SCORM is essentially a zip file. It is a wrapper around web deliverable multimedia. So if you can play it in a web browser, you can probably package it up into a SCORM session one way or another. It works great across Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge. Cookies can get in the way in modern world. We're happy to troubleshoot those things with you. It even works in Internet Explorer. Certainly IE11 is still around, but there's plenty of SCORM courses that work in legacy IE systems that aren't able to update for reasons. Firefox fits right in. It's a great browser. It's one of the big three. We test across it, and modern versions of Firefox handle SCORM pretty well. You want to make sure that there's no JavaScript blockers in place. As I was mentioning, all of the setting of bookmarks and completion statuses and scores, those are all communicated back to the LMS via JavaScript. So anything running that might get in the way can be problematic. We want to be sure we check those things. Some browsers are locked down more than others. We'll want to free those up a little bit if you're doing advanced SCORM and remote hosting content and doing some of the cooler modern things with it. And if it's not obvious, don't use Flash anymore, guys. Flash has no incompatibility with SCORM. So a Flash object can be a part of SCORM. I know a lot of our friends in the Department of Defense had piles and piles and piles of SCORM content that had Flash assets in it, and it's not a SCORM limitation. A SCORM course will launch, a SCORM course will play, but when it hits the Flash object and you're on your mobile browser, it's the Flash that's breaking. So I'm using Flash as a relative example there, but there are plenty of browser technologies that are old and outdated that don't work on modern systems that can break in flight, but it's not SCORM standing in the way. It's using an incompatible web deliverable multimedia. That's where you're going to go down the path of headaches and heartbreak. SCORM itself is agnostic. It plays what's inside of its zip file. And as long as the browser is compatible with that type of multimedia, SCORM shouldn't have any problems at all.